Why do opinions on quarterbacks change throughout the draft process when we have no new information?
I mean, I think the biggest one is people get to the information at different times, right? I used to think this about all of the top draft nicks, so to speak.
Right.
The Kuipers, McShay, and Mayock. It's like, okay.
It's effectively these guys stopped playing football in January,
Yeah.
and yet the draft stock moves
Yeah.
since then.
Because nobody watches every single throw. Even the guy who, this is their full-time job, right? Kuiper, Daniel Jeremiah, whoever it is. Nobody's doing the full evaluation by January. They're not like, all right, game film, it's over. I've watched every throw. I've watched everything I need to watch. Now I've got my grade on him. So theoretically, the new information isn't necessarily new, but people are watching it and getting to it later. And then with quarterbacks especially, I think other people's opinions do kind of matter. And that's a lot of what the draft community is doing. So all those people I mentioned, the Daniel Jeremiahs and Mel Kipers of the world, they're talking to QB coaches. What do you see? What do you see? So you're actually getting a little bit of wisdom of the crowds. Now, you might say that the wisdom of the crowds is trash because we're not good at hitting on quarterbacks, but that's what's happening. The new information is other people's insight. Like right now, I'm starting to doubt my Drake May confidence because everybody's trying to, people that I trust are saying, I don't know, I'm not seeing it, right? So that might sway my opinion. So that's how it's happening. That's why it's happening.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. The most of the movement, I would say, is happening because people are getting to that information. If you're working in the NFL, you are not watching every single play of college football from all the big prospects to get ahead for next year, right? In particular, the biggest change that happens after the season is coaches get to the tape. Like coaches generally are barely watching anything, and then coaches weigh in after the scouts have done their thing, and now you have to square the room where the scouts think one thing, the coaches think another thing, and somewhere in the middle there's a compromise, and that's where your big board is, right? And then the big board starts to get out to the outside world of, hey, I'm hearing, Team X thinks this about player Y, and that's
why the buzz changes, for sure, because there's more in-house opinions that are shaping
So
the board.
I do think that the biggest thing is, okay, nothing has changed, but people didn't see it when it happened in December, right? People are seeing it now. So that's the biggest thing. The other thing is, though, there is new information. Like there are new pieces of information that we didn't have in January, right? All these guys are interviewing with teams. All these guys are sitting through S2 tests, and they're running through combine measurables. And okay, you might not put much stock in that, but there's something. They are going to, they're putting their arm in a radar gun, which is giving them velocities. And there are things that come up between January when they stop playing and now that would
one knee throws
change.
Over the uprights
one
from 50
knee throws
yards away.
Yeah. So there is new pieces of information that are changing things, right? Or guys that were injured, right? They're going through medicals. They're showing that, hey, my knee's cool. It's not a problem, right? These things do change where rankings are or where you would evaluate bits of quarterback play. And then the other thing is, even once you get beyond the sort of conceptual scouting thing, sometimes it's going to take you a while to work out how much you want to value certain things. Because it's not a science. There's no formula, even the model, right? It's like a guy like CJ Stroud last year. Very early on, I think everyone had a pretty solid handle on what he was. The debate was, how much do you weigh the Georgia game versus the other stuff, right? And there's no answer to that. That's a gut feel thing, and you might change your mind as the thing goes on, right? You might start off going, nah, I can't put too much stock into that. It's one game, the body of work is bigger, blah, blah, blah. By April, you might go, you know what? The more I think about it, that Georgia game showed me everything I want to see, and now I'm more into CJ Stroud than I was a month ago. I think that's a reasonable explanation for some of this as well, is that your take is going to evolve a little bit as you think about it.
Yeah, so back to the original question, it depends on who you're talking about. So if you're talking about the average draft analyst, theoretically, yes, they should have as much as possible done by the season because they're keeping up with it, but they might not be. And if you're talking about just the buzz, right, like, oh, we're hearing J.J. McCarthy is more valued now than others, it's because there is a lot more information being thrown in because there are hundreds of other evaluators getting thrown into the mix with all the teams combined, and that's shaping draft stock, so to speak. So that's why it's all happening, because it's a fair question. I used to ask the same question, like, why would your opinion change at the end of the season? Should be locked in, but I've learned more through the years that it's about a timing and it's about there is actual more information for all positions too, not just QBs.